Destiny icebergs fall into one of two categories, either exclusively Destiny 2, or the hybrid ones only include like 4 Destiny 1 things. So, the Butter Biscuit, All-in-Well, Todstick B, and myself have created a modern Destiny 1 iceberg. This will include just about everything that we know or theorize in Destiny 1 that belongs on an iceberg, at least as of February 2023. So, please enjoy the video and check out the description for more information and credits. Thanks for watching, everyone. A quick breakdown of how an iceberg diagram works is similar to how an iceberg actually is. The surface level is well known by most players, and there is very little to expand upon, and the more you go down, the more cryptic, confusing, or obscure information we find. We will start at the top of the iceberg, where quite possibly the most well-known thing and well-documented exploit in the history of the game is. Loot Cave. In the very early days of Destiny, there was a cave in the Skywatch known as Loot Cave because hive enemies would seemingly endlessly spawn, dropping rare and sometimes legendary engrams. This was probably the first exploit, in air quotes, that Destiny 1 ever saw, and while it was patched before the release of Taken King, many Destiny players either heard about the legend or experienced the farm itself. There is an Age of Triumph milestone to Disturb the Remains, where you enter the cave and hold X or square to hear a voice say, "A million deaths is not enough for Master Rahul." This is a reference to how Guardians brought him scores of engrams in Year 1 from the cave, and how it is no longer in operation. Light Level 2. With the lowest amount of light level gear equipped, you can get a light level of 2. That includes a 3-attack Iron Gallahorn and Winter's End, a Mask Helmet, Lens Artifact, and light level 3 armor. Doesn't serve any real purpose, but it's kinda cool. Wall Breaching. Using a specific button combo involving the Come At Me emote, you can make short teleports to the left or right to go through a great deal of surfaces in Destiny. This has been used to revolutionize speedrunning and a very creative way to find and explore new areas unseen for years in the game, as you will see further down in the iceberg. Randal the Vandal. In Year 1 of Destiny, along the Forgotten Shore, there was a Vandal that was nearly impossible to kill as a result of bugged health from the developers. This Vandal was affectionately named Randal, and while his health was corrected later on, he was brought back as an Easter egg in Wrath of the Machine known as Randal Perfected. Servitor Eye. Everyone knows about the purple ball at the tower, or even the soccer ball that you can kick around, but there's also one in the reef. At the reef, there exists the Servitor Eye, which can spawn in 3 different locations of the reef, and when pushed it will make noises. If pushed too much or slided into a wall, it will eventually turn from purple to red and eventually explode, respawning somewhere else in the reef. Raid Report. Raid Report is a website that tracks a person's raid completions, times, and a few other metrics across both Destiny 1 and 2. Certain amounts of clears and times will land you in certain tiers from Bronze to Challenger, though on Destiny 1 these ranks are pretty inaccurate. Xur Symbol. This is the symbol that appears next to Xur. Just something people might not know. Master Chief. On the planet Mars in mission Cade Stash, there are references to the main characters of the Halo series, Master Chief. These are all pretty well documented in view of the public, so that's what gets it on the first level. Halo 3 ODST. Before the release of Destiny, an Easter egg in Halo 3 ODST showed an advertisement for the vehicle manufacturer Ascalon, depicting the Earth with a small white circle positioned to the northeast and the words "Destiny awaits" above it. Ultra Knight. The Ultra Knight is a knight inside the Cabal ship on the Dreadnought that people used as one of the earliest sources of exotic farming. The way people usually get there revolves around jumping in through a gap above a door. However, the intended way is to kill all the enemies in the area and then scanning consoles in the rooms to open up the main door, at which point you can go to the Ultra Knight and quickly take it down with a sniper. PS4 Exclusives. Before the release of Destiny 2, PS4 had a number of in-game weapons, armor, and activities exclusive to the platform. This included Jade Rabbit, Zen Meteor, the Echo Chamber Strike, Year 1 Hawkmoon, and several other things including armor drops now represented on Xbox as Sublime Engrams. Since D2's release, the exclusives have merged over to Xbox, and now both platforms are identical. Crota's End. Besides the fact that 3 out of every 4 people regard this as the worst raid Bungie has ever created, it was released and remains the buggiest D1 raid by a mile. A lot of people remember when you could take down Crota and unplug your Ethernet cable and he won't get back up, but we will talk about the other strange things about it. Crota released, and one standout bug to it had Crota chasing you either into the safe rooms or to the lower area to kill you. This is actually something that still happens, albeit far less often than it did in year 1. We should also mention the developments in speedrunning that were founding after breaching was shown to the public. Abyss skip, Shrieker despawn, spawn door camping, and glass door breaches are all saves that total over a minute. There are loads of other things to talk about, but this is already a long video, so we'll leave it at that and move to the second layer down. Bake tags. A couple years after the release of Destiny 2, a player named Aksis began making content involving a lot of mission and raid speedrun records. He was incredibly talented at Wrath of the Machine, and as his popularity grew, a trend began of people naming themselves a Destiny enemy or item followed by Bake. It cooled off in the last year or so, but for a while you couldn't go a day without seeing some remix of Aksis Bake. Mountain plants. When climbing Fellwinter Peak, the easiest path to follow is to follow the small plants all the way to the top. Bungie was probably well aware of getting complaints that the mountain was too hard, so they added this guide to make it easier on the players. It's also kind of a cool detail that they progressively get smaller the higher you get up the mountain. Killberrys. Killberrys is a player who owns a YouTube channel with a little over 300 subscribers. He posts random funny videos that have nothing to do with Destiny, but he's a really good player and has some actual bangers, like when he hits the gym. VICTORYSABER. VICTORYSABER is the name of a player whose fastest 370 Wrath completion lasted an incredible 31 hours, involving over 20 Guardians. This time nears the longest possible raid you can complete of an estimated 36 hours. With how much and how often the game is changing, setting an unbreakable record is almost impossible. But with this being his fastest completion, it just might be untouchable. Basketball court. Oryx's basketball court is a special room on the other side of the transept area after Golgoroth. The room has a tomb husk, a few relic statues, and bounce pads to simulate dunking a basketball. Bungie made this a cool area you could reach if you figured out how to get there, but there exists a number of breach routes to make it considerably easier to do. Tower ghosts. If you compare the size of your own ghost to the size of NPC ghosts, you will notice that their ghosts are considerably larger and the eyes are a blank red. It's interesting that they left these models in there when they already have properly sized ghosts in the game, but it doesn't really do any harm. Siege wipe. The siege wipe mechanic I am referring to is the one where after you complete the encounter, the team is inexplicably wiped. This first appeared during the race for the first completion, and what causes it is every living player goes too far past the chest area at the end of the encounter. As long as one person waits there, this mechanic shouldn't really be a concern. Part glitch. Part glitch refers to using your super ability, most often Sunbreaker or Gunslinger, to pocket a siege engine part. Doing so allows you to run and jump at normal speed and can be used at almost any item you can pick up across the entire game. Floating relics. After the release of King's Fall, Bungie uploaded a video called The Raid Along, where they had 6 developers load into the raid and explain the mechanics and where they got the ideas for the raid. The people doing the commentary over brought up how players often ask why relic number 2 is floating in the air, and their response was that they like seeing Guardians fall to their deaths when trying to get it. These people decide the future of Destiny. Scavenger's Boon. According to some sources, the perk Scavenger's Boon on the Wrath of the Machine gauntlets only works for one person in the fire team at a time. This has not been confirmed yet, but you can experience it in person if somebody gets a cold streak on Fallen Heavy drops, while someone else in the fire team may be getting the standard higher drop rate. Red levels. If you are under the recommended light level by considerable amounts, the colors of the enemy levels will be orange or red depending on how underlight you are. If the activity becomes a higher to a point where you wouldn't be able to ordinarily load into it from orbit, then the levels will become gray question marks and you will be unable to damage it. A common example of this is in Wrath of the Machine. If someone loads in with a minimum light and they get to Aksis Phase 2, they will no longer be able to do damage. You could Nova Bomb a Shank and get immunes. It's pretty funny if you see it for yourself. Pineapple Bake. Pineapple Bake is a meme created by All in Wall on stereotypes you will find on average players that severely overestimate their abilities. The image on screen depicts a Titan using the Valor and Darkness emblem, Wildfire shader, a blue burning eye, and a number of things that they often say or do, like raid reporting everyone in orbit, never taking off garrison, or getting stuck in walls because they can't do a backwards breach. I always say that run what you want in the game, but if you insist on putting on this combo, then please expect to get some shit for it. Datto's Raid Boss. Datto is one of the biggest, most impactful Destiny content creators of all time, and he once came up with a concept for his own Destiny 1 raid boss. After that, Bungie released the Echo Chamber Strike, which demonstrated very similar mechanics to Datto's boss concept. Datto did say that all of this was a joke, and Bungie never confirmed that they used his idea, but at the same time, they never confirmed OJ had killed someone, so who knows. Platform skills. For almost the entirety of Destiny's experience, the great majority of PvP talent was on PS4, while all the raiders were on Xbox. It wasn't until 2022 that PS4 speedrunners became consistent serious competitors with Xbox runners on every raid, whereas if you went to Twitch at any point in time before Destiny 2's release, it was well over 90% of the Trials carry streamers that were played only on PS4. And the only official MLG tournament that ever took place was exclusively open to PS4 talent. That's not to say Xbox is just full of a bunch of bums. Grenader Jake is one of the biggest streamers and easily one of the top Trials players on Xbox, as well as tournament players existed on both platforms, who are incredibly talented in their own rights. It's an interesting thing to look at because of how consistent a concept it was for years. But that's all for layer 2, so we're going to go to the next layer down. Shot Package. In the earliest parts of Destiny, there was a perk on shotguns called Shot Package. This perk reduced the spread pattern of each shotgun shot, which made every shotgun basically quintuple its effective range. This was unbelievably broken, and enough community complaining had the developers remove it from the game entirely, and all existing shotguns with the perk had it randomized to something else in the eligible perk tree. Box art. Destiny 1 box art has some interesting details to them. On the base game and every expansion cover, it is either Titan or Hunter at the front. The Taken King cover takes place at a specific spot where you spawn in the Dreadnought mission. Rise of Iron is the only one that doesn't showcase something you can equip in-game. Details like that. Breaching IRL. This refers to a video made by possibly a bird of him imitating the Come At Me emote and going through a wall. Not sure if it still exists, but it's pretty funny. Crota's End and Vaults of Glass shells. Ghost shells that drop from the 390 Vault of Glass and Crota's End always drop at 100% rolled intellect discipline strength. They have considerably lower drop rates than the King's Fall and Wrath ones, but the ones that you do get are always going to be the best ones. They also have an interesting thing in the icons. The VOG shell is tilted ever so slightly to where it's more facing directly at you, while the Crota one has a brighter eye than most other ghosts. It's interesting that Bungie botched the standard ghost icons only in the Age of Triumph raids, as the King's Fall and Wrath ones don't stick out at all. Hothead Rocket Launcher. Hothead is a rocket launcher that uses the same model as the Dragon's Breath. It was acquired from the Mountaintop quest from Shaxx. This rocket launcher was supposed to have different perks, but it could accidentally become a set roll, and it can't be obtained anymore, but is definitely one of the coolest weapons you can have stored in your vault right now. Fate of All Fools. Back in Year 2, a brain cancer patient was a big fan of Destiny, and the developers decided to make him the special gun called the Fate of All Fools. It is a high-impact exotic scout rifle that is the same model as the Stranger's rifle. He was granted this gun under the promise that he doesn't share this account with anyone. The account was allegedly known as Trifecta01, who has more raid clears than your bum ass, and when he did share the account, the Fate of All Fools was promptly deleted. It now sits in everyone's exotic kiosk under the name Jade Rabbit. Kylo VEVO. This is a short video made by Kylo Brent about the emote breach we discussed earlier. It goes a bit like this.
Me and my boy, Extremity, we pull up in LFG, Tom, left stick, B.
OG Totems. The current version of Totems that we see is actually the third iteration of it. The room they were in was essentially the same in the center, but the Annihilator Totems weren't there because the area was reserved for ad spawns. The objective wasn't running and switching, it was more of a King of the Hill kind of encounter, something that hadn't really been explored in Destiny's history. They would defend the center plate while enemies came up from the sides to kill you. However, they quickly found an issue of people just using Helm of St. 14, and the enemies would never touch them. They then changed it up to where you still had a lot of action in the middle, but the players had to go down to recover an object of some kind and bring it back, but they had similar problems of it being far too easy to work around. They then conceived around the modern version of Totems and stuck with it until the final raid release. Black Hammer Runestone. Black Hammer is the sniper that drops from the Year 1 versions of the Crota's End raid. When you dismantle the Black Hammer, there's a small chance that a Runestone drops. You give it to Eris for some reputation, and that's about it on the surface, but if you take a second to inspect it, you can see a combination of hive symbols. It's hard to decipher exactly what it means, but it tries to tell you to go through 2 doors, but not the third, which is the exact same process you have to go to get the Black Spindle, the Year 2 version of the Black Hammer. Green perks. Hair Trigger, Metal Detector, and several other perks you won't see drop in weapons of rare quality and above exist only in uncommon weapons. They can't really be used in activities as they drop at an attack value well under the recommended light levels. However, if some of these do drop for you, be sure to save a vault space for it. LFG Deep End. The Xbox Looking for Group has a function where you can set a post to start a week in advance, sending it to the bottom of the LFG page. And if you go to the LFG section of Destiny 1, you'll probably see 24 posts of people just talking shit, spamming the feed, people fighting, or whatever's on their mind. It's a really interesting thing, and if you just check on it every so often, you might learn something. Unloaded Gorgons. If you perform an IRB, something we will get onto later, while entering the Vault of Glass checkpoint back to Gorgons, it will put you in unloaded Gorgons. While you're in this area, if you are too close to the edge of it, it will push you off the map via a very large pushback barrier. If you get caught in this, you can get stuck in the area and not be able to leave unless you kill yourself with a rocket launcher or go to orbit. People have accidentally been put in this area and were confused on why they were there, which is why you may hear this also be called Doppler's Room, but that name is false. Broom Sparrow. During one of the Halloween events Destiny ran, they released a seasonal sparrow known as the Lost Broom. You would claim it in the hangar bay near the lounge area, and it was a standard 160 speed sparrow that lasted for the season event. Alright, 3's done, layer 4 time. NVUS Gaming. NVUS Gaming was a Destiny YouTuber that specialized in out-of-bound glitches and sparrow flying. He was a staple in the Destiny 1 glitching community and was the first to do many things, including getting behind Templar's door in Patrol. He was also the first person to release a video on how to go through any wall without wall breaching on a Warlock and a Sparrow. However, NVUS Gaming got a lot of hate from his YouTuber competitors and eventually disappeared from the platform entirely. Although many of his out-of-bounds glitches have been patched, he is still remembered as one of the best out-of-bounds glitches to ever play Destiny. Ads. It's a big debate over how you spell ads, referring to additional enemies. You will hear many different opinions of the correct way to spell it, but the majority of gamers and consensus opinion goes as ADS is for aim down sights, so therefore additional enemies should be ads with 2 Ds. You will find websites compiling official gaming terminology that are backing up this theory as well. Cannon Glitch. Cannon Glitch was a technique invented to make an Aksis solo easier by being possible to be completed on a Titan. If you pick up and drop the cannon enough, the charge lockout will no longer reset and you'll be able to pick up cannons and throw bombs without restriction. It is a rather inconsistent strategy, and the means of making it more consistent will include overkill on the pickups, switching your shaders around, and it also allows you to equip the Memory of Felwinter artifact without the penalty of losing your super. It's a very peculiar glitch in the game, and its utility puts it on the 4th level down. 9-man raid. On February 24th, 2020, a team finished Vault of Glass with 9 green dots on raid report, signaling that 9 people had completed a raid. This was accomplished by killing Atheon while also being killed by an Oracle, finishing the raid but also wiping. This strange combination would put you in a weird wipe screen for a long period of time, and after 2 to 5 minutes of waiting, it will then put you at the beginning of the entire raid. This is called a fake raid, and any new people who join will not be able to use ammo synths as well as their kills and deaths are not going to be tracked on raid report. After completing the fake raid report will combine all of the raid members into the first raid and only track the stats of the first raid. 7 coins. There are 7 small coins scattered across the tower. Bungie has shown a strange affection to the number 7, but this is one of those really difficult to find Easter eggs. Like a lot of things on the iceberg, it doesn't serve any real purpose, but it's a nice challenge to go and find them all. Bannerfall Turrets. During the Beauty and Destruction quest line to rebuild the Gallahorn, you have a mission that takes place on Bannerfall. One part of the mission is to reconnect the turrets across the map. A detail people tend to miss about those turrets is that they are almost perfectly identical to the Rise of Iron Siva turret models. They are slightly different, but it's likely the developers used the same base when making both of these. Wyverns. If you look up at the sky in Venus, you will eventually see a bunch of creatures flying around. The consensus is that they are wyverns, but they don't have much, if any, relation to the Fallen or Vex, so it's pretty odd that they're here in the first place. Black Box. In the Black Garden, you can fly past the area where the heart used to be and fall through some intangible objects to an area below the heart. Looking down from there exists a black box that's just kind of there. With how big Mars and the Black Garden are, it's hard to imagine that this is any kind of reference point, but it's about the same X and Z coordinate as the heart of the Black Garden itself, so maybe it has something to do with that. IRB. IRB, or Interdimensional Breaching, is a glitch discovered by Destiny 2 players that allows the game to teleport you to the last place you died from anywhere. Once you have set your ghost somewhere via dying by a rocket launcher, you can enter a load zone placed against a wall while offset via the wall breach, and it'll put you back where you first killed yourself. This glitch, although found in Destiny 2, can still be done in Destiny 1, and can get you places in strange positions out of bounds or even be used as time saves on speedruns. PDR. PDR, or Pocket Death Resurrection, is a glitch that allows you to self-res as any character at any time. It has a few requirements to do so, and that is to 1. Not be dead, 2. Not have wiped while in a respawn restricted zone, 3. Have the Boo or Howl emote equipped, and 4. The location 000 is on stable ground. The reason this is on the iceberg is because there are a lot of quirks and requirements with this glitch that make it work or not, but PDR is one of the newest glitches in Destiny, and there are still new discoveries to be made with it. Raid naming. This entry does not refer to the names of the raids itself, but certain enemies or objects within them. I can only find VOG, Wrath, and King's Fall versions of this, but if somebody named a Lamps in Crota or something, let me know. But in reality, fuck Crota's End, so who cares? Each Gorgon in Vault of Glass was first assigned a number by the Butter Biscuit, non-sequential numbers of course, then a collection of people known as VOG Bros gave them all names. For Wrath of the Machine, Usma provided names to all the monitors behind Vosik. People have done this in the past, but I am referring to the generally accepted titles for them all. And since nothing existed for King's Fall, I am proud to announce the names of the King's Fall ships. We got Jeffrey, Harass, Scrape, Clarence, Stuart, Broccoli, Requise, Bartholomew III Jr. once removed, Shorts, 10, Queen, and AIDS. Just don't ask for the names of the stationary ships, and we can happily move to the next one. Crucible Breaches. There are a few Crucible maps in Destiny 1 with breaches that can be utilized to go on kill sprees, lockdown zones, and are incredibly difficult to stop. Those maps are Sector 618, Skyshock, and Black Shield, and also Last Exit, but we don't really care about that one. On Sector 618, there exists the Lancer Breach, in which a crate overlapping Zone B can be entered and shot through while being immune to damage from almost every single angle. Black Shield has a breach route next to Bravo Spawn that lets you perch on the rocks in the back corner of the map. You are very exposed in that position, but with practice and an icebreaker, you have 10 free kills to your name. Skyshock only drops during Combined Arms Week, but in the cage area where you built the Gallahorn, you can breach into it and be completely immune to damage outside of a sniper shot. Most people don't know this, so you and a sniper or a fusion rifle can lock down that zone at will. Oracle Disruptor.
ちょっぴりだが、この俺をビビらせやがってこの野郎。これで確実にてめえの頭をえぐりと。
人間を部品にするという君の能力から。
どこへ行った？たった今ぶっ飛ばしてやったてめえの手首はどこへ？
それは正しくない。僕はあえて切り離したんだ。ちょっとした忠告をサービスしてあげると、君のこの手は僕を攻撃するよりも自分の身を守ることに使った方がいい。
なめてんじゃねえぞ。
運命なのか、それとも似たようなスタンド同士の引力で君と僕は出会ったのか。君のおかげで僕のゴールドエクスペリエンスはとにかく成長できた。切り離した手はすでに違う食い進む生き物となってお前の中に侵入している。そう。
Don't hold down the trigger.
LFG Index. It is unclear if this still exists, but in 2020, the LFG Index was created. It is a Destiny 1 version of John Boyce's Surrender Index, which was a formula that quantified how cowardly a punt in the NFL was. The LFG Index quantifies one's performance inside a Wrath of the Machine raid. It takes into consideration access damage, rolls within the raid, any setbacks out of their control, and so on. The lower the score, the better, and the average score one gets is about a 30. The best score ever recorded was a 3.61 by Exotic Lord Shax, and the highest score ever recorded was over 600,000 by a guy who basically just stood around and took up space. Hidden perks. There are actually hundreds of perks that exist in Destiny 1, but a great deal of them are not in use. Not including scopes and ballistics, guns can come with upwards of 6 perks to them, and those perks across all the weapons make up well under 50% of all the ones out there. Flight of Shadows. Xur used to sell you the Flight of Shadows consumable for 1 strange coin if you came and talked to him with the Jackalite item active. It's just a neat thing, I think. Okay, now the next section contains things that people only know about if they have been playing for the entire 2020s or remember short events from over half a decade ago. Untouchables List. The Untouchables List was a list of names created by CurvyMage78 written down on some graph paper. It was created as a list of players that Curvy was paranoid of interacting with for one reason or another, most often due to a connection with a player named Zooms, someone who had made serious threats on him. The list was passed around and the player base correctly identified it as more of a Dear Diary, I don't like this person compilation. The backlash from this list as well as the reactions of the people on it became one of the biggest reasons that made Curvy quit the game for over a year. The original list no longer exists, but many people have it saved as a relic of the past, and it stands more today as a meme than anything else, and a symbol of who CurvyMage78 was at the start of the 2020s. Tower Wedding. 2 Guardians actually once got married in Destiny. They set up at the tower and used the proposal and agree or disagree emote for the processions. Bungie even gave them rings that they can equip as artifacts, however they have no light level, so if they want to be 400 light, sorry, no ring for you. Trespasser Drop. About 2 weeks before Destiny 1 released the Rise of Iron DLC, a couple players revealed that the Trespasser had dropped for them. This should have been impossible since the exotic was released in Year 3, so this was an incredibly weird bug. Bungie heard the news and basically said, Trespasser's dropping, oh neat, and left it unchanged. We aren't sure if this was an accident in code or if they intentionally released it with a 1 in 10,000 drop rate or something. Whatever it was a fun period of time before Rise of Iron came out and is mostly forgotten about until now. Unused Emblems. Similar to hidden perks, there exists many emblems that are in the Destiny 1 database but cannot be accessed. You may find early screenshots of players having these in the early game tests, as well as special ones granted to the Bungie developers. Stone Dregs. This is referred to as Stone Vandals in other videos covering this topic, but they're dregs, so I'm calling them Stone Dregs. If you load into the Fist of Crota mission and make your way to the top of the end cave and you look into the distance, you'll be able to see what appears to be solid gray dregs taking cover. They don't serve any real purpose and are likely just leftover assets sitting out of bounds, but it's weird to find them here, and they're only in this mission. 6th chest. Think of all the Vault of Glass chests. There are 2 at the beginning, the first one and the secret one, the Spirit Bloom chest, the Templar chest, and the Gorgons chest. If you count all those chests, there are 5, but there are actually 6. In level 26 and level 30, additional chests will spawn if Templar does not teleport, in a cave before the drop into the Templar chest room. Not many people know about this chest as it was one of the last to be found and doesn't spawn on 390, and this chest has pretty much been forgotten about and can only be found in old raid guides. Boss Enrages. Raid bosses have a mechanic known as Enrage, and each one of these bosses has their own unique Enrage mechanic. Bosses will enrage if you either take too long to kill them or some other metric has been triggered. This is on the iceberg because it seems like most people don't know what some of the boss rages actually do, and some people will get half of them right or not at all. Even Reddit posts back in 2014 when the game was still active will have the same concern. Aksis Monitors. On the right side of the Perfection Complex, there are 8 monitors. They each have 8 commands and apparent lines of code. There are several repeating lines and similarly structured ones, proving that this is not random characters everywhere. There are different colored ones, and one of the far ones is blinking for no reason. A neat addition to the area, but it has little explanation behind it. Arcade Machine. When you load into Vault of Glass, on the right side there's the sync plate with a weird object that looks like an arcade machine on the other side. This object is not connected to anything under it, and it serves no purpose. There are no reasons for this object to be here, and it's hard to imagine why the devs put it there. Vosik Respawn. While no footage of this exists, if you kill Vosik on the same frame as his shield returning, then he can respawn with full health and basically restart the encounter. Very few have experienced this, as you have a chance of this only happening if you kill him in the 1/30th of a second window. But the concept opens up many other questions to go with it. What happens to the rewards? Can challenge mode be completed? Do other encounters have this similar function? It's fun to think about. Emulator. For a long time now, people have been working on creating a PC emulator port of Destiny 1. Should this happen, a lot of groundbreaking things could come from it. A big thing would be a large player base increase now that they can play it using a mouse and keyboard with their PC specs without the limits of a console. Something bigger is a theoretical discovery of an Ocarina of Time level speedrun glitches. What I mean by that is something super weird, like if you load into Crota while wearing a green shader and you crouch 34 times looking at a 60-degree angle, the raid instantly ends after 2 minutes. As it stands, we have a deadline of 2026 to get this in operation, and the potential of it is unlimited. So that wraps up layer number 5. And now we go to the bottom of the iceberg, containing only the most obscure, unsettling, and saddening knowledge to the Destiny community. Secret Kiosk. Underneath the tunnel connecting the tower plaza and hangar sections exists a small kiosk outside the map. It cannot be accessed or interacted with, and is possibly an object at the reference point 000 XYZ coordinate for the tower. If this is indeed the case, then it was likely the first object ever placed when constructing the tower itself. It doesn't have any literal purpose, but it's a really interesting thing to consider. However, it's unlikely that a kiosk that doesn't do anything would be the first thing placed at the tower. The more likely case is that it was placed there on accident, and none of the many tower updates found it and removed it. People have claimed to be able to access it and it had never before seen items within it, but this is very likely untrue. Longhair's VOG theories. Oh boy, where to begin? Longhair is an individual whose sole purpose is to spread Vault of Glass theories. These theories include alternate endings, secret encounters, hidden rooms, and just crazy things that can only be obtained via actions that mimic the first fire team that entered the Vault of Glass. By that he means entering using the same Exo, Awoken, and human characters and classes wearing the armor that drops from the raid, which is just absurd to say out loud. Explaining and describing some of these theories would take way too long and I would probably get them all wrong, but what I can say is that some of these theories do make some sense. He has in the past made posts to carry out these theories, but no evidence has been presented to prove or back these theories. Some of these things include going to Campus 9 or the Citadel and aligning the beams of light with seemingly no purpose, something he has actually attempted before. If you'd like to learn more about this, then you can ask him yourself. He still plays regularly and posts about this stuff on LFG. The true size of King's Fall. King's Fall is already, by a wide margin, the largest raid in Destiny 1, but to quote our ghost, we haven't even scratched the surface of this thing. Within King's Fall, you can access almost the entirety of the Dreadnought through 4 total areas, including the 2 largest areas we can access within the game. The first 2 are the main patrol and King's Fall sections that you always reach. These are pretty big in their own rights, but it doesn't even compare to the unloaded portico and full ships areas. I mentioned earlier about the Destiny raid-along video Bungie made when I was talking about the floating relics. They made another comment about the ship section, that the ship section used to be twice as long. Well, it seems we have found the rest of it. The place that you spawn after leaving the Hall of Souls was originally the halfway point for the ship's encounter, and the developers looked at it and decided it was a little much, so they just moved the spawn point to where it is today. If you breach out from under the area and get the Crux load zone, you can cut back and look at the other half of the area, and it is massive. The entire thing is solid, but mostly restricted by pushback barriers. You can see certain things like just about all of the planet Saturn, the main patrol zone that you come from, and just how long the swinging pillars are. You can get to the bottom of it and work your way outside to scale the entire top half of the Dreadnought to get on top of the entire ship, all while remaining in the Crux area. It hasn't been explored entirely, but it is determined to be the largest explorable area in all of Destiny that still has a lot of potential. Unloaded Portico is the title given to the complete area that was mapped out for the Portico area. It is an unbelievably massive place that we have not fully traversed yet and might never with its size and accessibility. You can see a chunk of it in All in Wall's Patrol to King's Fall video, and the thing that sticks out is just how many tangible objects there are. If you breach out to the large areas, you will see a lot of textures that cannot be interacted with and is just left over from Bungie making the area. This is different to Unloaded Portico because almost everything there is placed by design and is not accessible through standard gameplay. It's an odd decision to leave it there, and honestly, megabytes of data just sitting around doing nothing. All of this puts into perspective how much work it takes to be on the team of people who have to make these areas. You can spend hours and hours in making the largest space in all of Destiny, and the developers walk in and say, oh hey, we don't need like almost all of what you just did. I'm sure it's not as simple as that, but finding that much stuff just chilling completely out of view is kind of fascinating. One day we will find more info on this, but right now it resides in the deep end of the iceberg. Letting Go. This is the title of a video released in 2011. Destiny was released in 2014, so what does this have to do with Destiny? Well, in particular, this image stands out. The video overall comes off as pretty cursed and almost scary. It was allegedly made by an early game tester that hinted at the release without breaking their non-disclosure agreement, but there is very little to support this, so it just remains a theory. There are 3 different screens that will be shown. One is of the Destiny logo with a bunch of random characters and a couple paragraphs below it. The last one is of a sword with a green infinity, but little information is recognizable to Destiny 1. The second page, however, reads off as easily the most disturbing one. I used to be so joyful. Once upon a time, no one fought over me. Then the bombs started falling, and the people started dying, and I wept. For the first time I wept. Now I stand at a precipice. Chained though I may be, I had an awakening. A light came to me from the darkness. A light that told me I had meaning. I am more than a tool, a sword you wield when you're afraid. I am the eldritch glow that surrounds all things. I am the Virgin Queen from whom all was born. I am the gear that turns at the heart of the Nexus. And for the first time in a long time, I am happy, because I am going to destroy you. All of you. As all this goes on, there's an ambience and alarm going off in the background that is actually a message in Morse code. It says, "Take up your arms, my children. Embrace your destiny." Every signal this video sends is unsettling and could come from someone within Destiny like Rasputin, the Traveler, or even our Ghost. Whatever comes of it within the game, it's incredible to think that all of this was released 3 years before the game itself did. That being the case, however, I don't think it has any relevance to Destiny anymore. Bungie has proven themselves as one of the most short-sighted companies, and the thought that they had the entire Destiny story planned out over a decade is very unlikely. Even if it did have something to do with the Destiny story or lore, it was probably scrapped a very long time ago. All in all, one of the easiest selections for the deepest part of the iceberg. Boss NSFW Art. Gossip lawsuit. Gossip was the first person to make a serious profit on linking their BNet account with other players to share exclusive emblem codes, along with other in-game items of similar value. Gossip was making thousands on this off of a Craigslist post, and was conceivably becoming tax-deductible income for him. Bungie caught on to Gossip's actions and asked him to stop doing this, to which he said no, repeatedly. So then Bungie said, "Okay, bucko, you asked for it," and threatened a cease and desist order for $250,000. Needless to say, Gossip halted operations and was quickly permanently banned on BNet, and has not been seen since. Alpha Lupi ARG. The Alpha Lupi ARG, or Alternate Reality game, was created by Bungie before the official announcement of Destiny. Over the course of 7 days, fans could unlock strange images with hidden codes. These codes were soon discovered to be URLs that led to images with poetic text on them. By the final day, everything was unlocked, fans rejoiced, and were even rewarded. Although these codes have been cracked, there are still questions to be asked, particularly on whether or not this was even discovered. The emblem Song of Spheres was what connects to the ARG, and is not confirmed if anybody actually has that. If you want to take a more literal look at what it could be, the Alpha Lupi is a blue giant star, and is also the brightest star in the Lupus constellation. The true meaning of this constellation has yet to be unveiled within Destiny. Death Guy. Death Guy, also known as Uncupied Candy, was an incredibly talented world record speedrunner who took his own life in early 2021. He was a fun, energetic, and outstanding person who tragically lost his life. He is missed by many and lives on in the hearts of so many players today. Rest in peace, Death Guy, and thank you for all you've done for the game. We love you, man. So that concludes the iceberg. Thank you very much for watching. Again, check the links in the description for the people who helped me make this, and enjoy the outro.
I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me.